Give a little bit of attention to Matthew chapter 5, verse 38, the teachings of Jesus, and resolving conflict and being able to de-escalate conflict and just learning how to get along with other people, how to live with other people, and how to have a relationship with other people to where your Christian witness can step forward and your Christian witness can be seen, because Christians are who Jesus is talking about. People who are the light of the world, who sit on a hillside, whose light cannot be hid or should not be hid. So this is how Christians, one thing I heard G. Patterson says, he's gone on to be with the Lord, but he talked about, half of the New Testament, most of the New Testament is written to Christians behaving bad. Most of the New Testament is not written to sinners or toward sinners, but most of the New Testament is written to Christians who don't know how to behave, and they don't behave right. Especially in the book of 1st and 2nd Corinthians, it's all about how Christians ought to behave, but they're not behaving right. And so G. Patterson made the observation that we don't realize that very little of the New Testament is written to sinners. The only thing it really tells sinners is to repent and turn to God through Jesus Christ. But the rest of the New Testament is written to Christians. Christians don't know how to behave as Christians toward other Christians, but not also toward other Christians, but toward the culture in the world. We don't know how to behave. We don't know. And so Jesus in this Sermon on the Mountain focuses in on how Christians ought to behave in a secular world as Christians, but also how Christians ought to treat other Christians, especially other Christians, and how we ought to conduct ourselves. So this is really about, in this 5th chapter, 38th verse, it is Jesus teaching what the Old Testament taught or what the law taught, but then he taught the same principle that the law taught, but he taught it under grace, how we are to behave. And Jesus was not abolishing the law, but he was giving a definition and simplifying the law, and he's breaking it down to its most generic form, so for it to be applied by those who are now his disciples. He's primarily talking to his disciples, those who've already decided to follow him, and he says, this is what you do. Now, I know what you've heard, and when you read it in verse 38, it's going to be a different font, or it's going to be in a different font. It's going to, what the Old Testament says, if you read it, it's going to be in a different font, and Jesus is going to be quoting what it said in the Old Testament. Probably it's going to be in Leviticus chapter 21. He's quoting Leviticus chapter 21, verse 24. That's where Jesus is quoting when he says an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. He's quoting Exodus chapter 21, verse 24. That's what they were taught, an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. And a hand for a hand, a foot for a foot, a burn for a burn, a wound for a wound, a strike for a strike. If a man strikes the eye of his male or female and destroys it, there shall be taken away. That was the law. And so it was the law, the purpose of the law was to restrain behavior that was lawless and reckless and injured others. That was the whole purpose of the law. And there had to be consequences for those who violated the law. That's why Jesus is really giving attention to this, but when God originally gave this commandment, it was not as a form of punishment, it was as a form of consequences. Jesus was really teaching it, and he's going to teach it in a different form. But when it was originally written, why would God have such a severe consequences to action to deter people from doing reckless behavior that injured others? You get what I'm saying? It sounded cruel, but he says, if you recklessly, with malicious malice and forethought, go out and injure somebody in a fit of rage, The just punishment is whatever you inflicted upon them is inflicted upon you as a consequence. They didn't have prisons in that day. They didn't have a way to incarcerate people, and so there had to be crime and a punishment and a consequence. And so God was telling them, in order to keep people from being reckless and being malicious and injuring somebody else, if they do, this is the consequence. If you put out somebody's eye, your eye gonna be put out. If you cut off somebody's hand, your hand gonna be cut off. You knock out somebody's tooth as a fit of rage with malicious malice and forethought, and you do it intentionally, the same thing you do to them is gonna be done to you. That was a way to deter or to prevent people from doing reckless things to other people. So it wasn't cruel. It sounded cruel, but it wasn't cruel. You get what I'm saying? They didn't have prisons. They couldn't incarcerate people. But there had to be a consequence for the actions of people. So Jesus quotes that, but he says in verse 39, but I say unto you, resist an evil person. But I say unto you, he said, but I say unto you, not to resist an evil person. And that word resist an evil person, it literally means, in a practical sense, don't let an evil person make an evil person out of you. But it says resist not an evil person. In other words, don't allow somebody to make you their adversary or their enemy. And he's really going to talk about that you might be injured, you might be violated, you might be harmed, but if you go tick for tack, the conflict will never be resolved, and it'll be a forever conflict like the Hatfields and McCoys. You'll forget what you're fighting about because you've been fighting so long. And so Jesus is going to teach this principle: do not, but I tell you not to resist an evil person. Don't do this tick for tack and get into this residual, constant, forever, drug out conflict that if you knock out my tooth, I'm gonna knock out your tooth. If you cut off my hand, I'm gonna cut off your hand. If you cut off my foot, I'm gonna cut off your foot. It's just gonna be a back and forth. And if you keep doing that, you ain't gonna have no eyes, foots, or legs, or hands. Because it's always, if you get me, I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you. It's gonna be back and forth, and it's going to probably eliminate both people, injure both people. It's going to be consequence for both people. And that's what Jesus is teaching in this particular text. But he says, but I say, but whoever slaps you on the right cheek, turn to them the other. That's where y'all have a problem. Yeah, you have a problem doing that. Somebody slap you, and that is not even and Jesus is not talking about something done to you so grievous and so physically harmful. But Jesus is talking about, when he's talking about slapping on the other cheek, he's not talking about this eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth. Eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth, hand for a hand, foot for a foot. That is physical injury that literally affects your physical person. But Jesus says, these things that I'm telling you to act different and to respond different is not even that serious. This is being slapped on the cheek. And this is not something that needs to be escalated, because he was really talking about those who were the judges in Moses' day. This is how you adjudicate these offenses. If a person comes to you and their eye been knocked out, and you adjudicate this case and you get both parties in here, and as a way to measure how you're going to respond to this, an eye for an eye, tooth for tooth. That was more of a judicial process. But Jesus is talking about personal relationships. If somebody slaps you on the right cheek and slapping you, it's gonna physically hurt, but it's not a long-term or an injury that is gonna be life-changing. It's just a slap. And literally, y'all have watched them old movies where if you want to insult a person, you took your gloves off and you took them and I watched them old movies. Some of y'all ain't old enough to remember old movies when they slap you on the cheek. That is a way to convey a challenge or to insult a person. And so Jesus is really teaching the idea of being insulted or being offended, and our response sometimes outweighs what has happened to us. We have a hyper reaction. We have an overreaction of just small things that happen to us. He says if they smite you on the right cheek, turn the other to him. Turn the other to him. And this idea that, okay, if I come and smack you on one cheek, yeah, it's gonna be short-term pain, and you're gonna have some pain, some physical pain. But that's not why people respond. Not because of the physical pain, people respond because of the public shame or humiliation. And then that kicks in, and then somebody smite on you on the right cheek, you smite them on their right cheek. Then they smite you on your left cheek, then you smite them on their left cheek. Then they smite you on your right cheek, and it's a back and forth, and nothing ever gets resolved. Jesus saying the Christian, his disciples, have to respond different, because ain't nobody gonna win if it's a tick for tat. It will go on forever. And what I tell people in the legal clinic that we have at the library on the first Monday night in September is sometimes you have to value the relationship more than what happens that might offend or might cause you to feel insulted or hurt. Value the relationship over everything. So when somebody smites you on the right cheek, before you respond, determine how important the relationship is before you respond. Because if you respond in a way where you smite them on the right cheek, you might injure a relationship where it can never be repaired. And so I tell young people when they come to our legal clinic and I get to do my little talk, I tell them, consider the value of a relationship before you mess it up and tear it up beyond repair. How important is that relationship before you react and respond? When somebody hits you on the right cheek and you turn around and hit them on their left cheek, because you're gonna be, if they come on your right, you're not gonna hit them with your right, you're gonna hit them on the left cheek. That's what Jesus is teaching, because you standing face to face. They slap you on the right cheek, you're gonna slap them on the left cheek. It's gonna be a left cheek, right cheek, where nothing is ever gonna be resolved, to where there is no process by which that relationship can be healed, and there can be reconciliation and recovery. So see how much you value the relationship before you respond. You get what I'm saying? So if me and Ms. Combs got into it and she slapped me, she might have been justified. I might have literally provoked her. And she was completely justified in responding. So before I respond, I've got to value how important is me and Ms. Combs' relationship. Because if I respond in a way that it injures it beyond repair, because relationships can recover, reconciliation can happen. But everybody ain't like you. Don't much bother you. You can take a lot. Not everybody is built like that. So I tell people to value the relationship. And so Jesus is teaching, turn the other cheek. Kind of measure your response. And it don't have to be as severe as the offense that was just happened to you. It don't have to be measured that high. And Jesus is saying, think about it before you respond. How valuable is the relationship? Then Jesus is also saying, how measured should your response be to being smacked on your right cheek? Measure your response. Maybe you don't need to respond back. Maybe you need to just try to find a way out. Because sometimes people just want you to hear them and speak their piece. And so just listen. Maybe their smacking your right cheek was justified. Maybe they needed to do that to get out of them what was in them about you. So you hear what I'm saying? And so you got to measure your response. Then he says in verse 40, if one sues you and takes your shirt, in some translations, in others it says your tunic, Give them your cloak or give them your whole jacket. Now this is Jesus trying to keep some peace, because this one was about this physical, now this is about material, because somebody's suing you and taking you to court because they feel like you have wronged them in a business transaction or in a transaction of commerce, and they felt like they have been slighted, so now they're gonna take you to court. And they're gonna sue you for your tunic or your shirt. Now you got into a legal situation where you brought the courts into this. And now Jesus says it doesn't even need to get that far. You need to settle it before it gets that far, before it escalates and gets all these other people involved. And see, that's the other thing Jesus is teaching in this particular text. We need to keep conflict between you and the person you into it with and not bring everybody else into it. That's what we do in most churches and in most family situations and in most work situations. We bring everybody into it. When we mad at somebody, we want everybody to be mad at them. When we don't like them, we want everybody not to like them. And so Jesus is trying to teach, if you know somebody is suing you for your tunic or your shirt, you go ahead and try to negotiate a settlement. And if you got to give them more than what they're asking for just to settle it, do it. Again, you're a disciple, you're a Christian, and you're trying to be the light of the world. But don't keep going back and forth and fight this, because your relationship might be ended so it never can be repaired, and you might involve so many different people from both sides, from your side and from my side, that get drug into this. Now you got not two people upset with each other, two groups upset with each other. That's why I tell married couples, never discuss your private, personal relationship and marriage with your family members. If you and your husband get into it, it should be something between y'all. You shouldn't call your mama, your daddy. He shouldn't call his mama or his daddy, his sisters or his brother, because when y'all get through arguing, y'all make up, everybody else still mad. Y'all done made up, now y'all going over to the barbecue. Now y'all good now, but you done drug all the other folk into it, tick for tat. You tell your mama, I'm gonna tell my mom. You tell your dad, I'm gonna tell my mom. You tell your sisters, I'm gonna tell my sister. You tell your brother, I'm gonna tell my brother. Okay, now, y'all done moved on. Now it's the 4th of July. Now you want her or him to come around them, and they don't know y'all done made up in a sense, but because that's his mama or your mama, or his father, your brother, your sisters, or his sisters, or your sister, they still feel some kind of way. And so now you got more problems, you got more people involved in it. That's why we got to keep our personal conflicts personal and not public. We do too much. Miss Jefferson been mad at me, but she didn't go out and tell the whole world. She mad at me this week because I didn't show up at her program. But she didn't come out here blasting me. She didn't go tell Paula and Wanda, I'm mad at the pastor, brought me some something to eat today. You see what I'm saying? That situation didn't go beyond Sunday. Because today she still brought me some tea and this fried chicken. You know what I'm saying? And she could have just trashed me at the Fifth Sunday Fellowship. She could have trashed me on the telephone. But see, that's not how that would have escalated. Because she come for me, I'm coming for her. That's human nature. Jesus is trying to teach not to give in to human nature. Somebody got to take the high road. Somebody got to be the bigger person. You know what I'm saying? It ain't gonna help if you just keep going back and forth. How do you wish to resolve it? Want to be right? Both of y'all think y'all right. Want to win? Both of y'all want to win. Want to come out on top? Both of y'all want to come out on top. Somebody in these conflicts Jesus is talking about turning the other cheek, not getting into a long, drawn out conflict with somebody over material stuff. Somebody has to lose. Somebody's got to be the big person. Somebody got to walk away. Somebody got to give up what they shouldn't have to give up, but they give it up in order to move on and to resolve conflict. Y'all know about the Hatfield and McCoys. They fought for so long, started over, and it really didn't start over nothing that it should have caused such animals between the two families, but that conflict is still going on today. Because some people just won't let stuff go. That's the danger of getting other people involved in personal conflicts, because some people will never let it go, even though you are the principal person and the other person is the principal person. Y'all done let it go, y'all made up now. And now, but everybody else mad. I've been pastoring almost 40 years, and I got some families now. They didn't leave this church because they didn't like me. They left this church because the person that they loved didn't like me, and they were mad at me. And the person that didn't like me, that they loved, told them, don't go out there no more. He ain't right. Because they couldn't resolve a conflict. They couldn't overcome a disagreement or a situation where it couldn't be resolved, so they drug all these other people in. You get what I'm saying? So, do you think if somebody sued you for your shirt, you could give them your coat? Honestly. Now you gonna fight it all the way to the Supreme Court. You ain't never given somebody more than what they already don't deserve, but they feel like they were injured or wronged or shorted or slighted, and now, in order to resolve the conflict, you say, look, let's figure out a way of settling this. That's what Jesus is really teaching, is you gotta figure out a way to settle these issues. He's talking about if they sue you for your tunic or your shirt, you give them your cloak or your coat. Jesus is really teaching, you gotta figure out a way to get this situation resolved. Find some solutions, some answers. What is the best way we can resolve this that both of us can walk away like we both want? Somebody gonna have to give up something. It's gonna have to be some compromise. There's gonna have to be some give and taking. You can't win. If you always gotta win in every situation, you gonna whittle your circle of friends down to a very few small group of people. Or you gonna walk away from every situation where there's conflict. Now, I respect people who don't leave during a conflict and after a conflict. But when you are, I can't stand people who cause trouble, and after they get the trouble stirred, they gone. And you done raise as much hell as humanly possible. Got everybody mad at each other. Now you completely lead the situation and lead this disaster behind. When you could have been the bigger person when you got mad, you could have just left because you was mad. Not pull everybody in it and try to get everybody else mad. I'm talking to black church folk. This happened all the time within the context of black church. One principal person is mad at the deacons, the pastor, the choir members, the president of the kitchen committee. One person is mad at another person. And instead of them just saying, okay, I'm done. I ain't working in the kitchen no more. They try to get everybody in the kitchen committee to quit. Mad at the usher president, instead of them just saying, look, I'm gonna go find something else to do in the church, they try to get all the ushers mad. Ain't the truth what I'm saying? One deacon mad at the pastor or another deacon, instead of them just saying, well, look, I'm gonna find something else to do. I'm gonna go serve on the usher board because this don't fit me well. He just gonna try to tag the whole deacon board. That don't make sense. That's not trying to find resolution, to settle conflict, to come to a peaceable resolution, an agreement. We might not agree, but we ain't gonna tear this up because we don't agree. You get what I'm saying? And so Jesus is saying it's about settling the conflict, and you might have to give up a little more than was asked of you. Who wants to do that? All you asking me for is my shirt or my tunic, and Jesus said, I need to give you my coat or my cloak. That's more than what you asked for. You just sued me for my shirt. Now Jesus saying, I got not only give you my shirt, but if it's gonna bring peace between us and resolve it, I need to take my coat off and give it to you too. Can you do that as a Christian, as a disciple of Jesus? I think the old people, my grandmother used to say, giving up the right for the wrong. You gotta do that sometime. If you want to maintain the peace, the civility, and the unity of a relationship, sometimes you have to give up more than is asked. But Jesus is teaching you got to find an out, an exit, some way to resolve these. Our conflicts as Christians, among Christians, this is who Jesus is talking to, his disciples, these conflicts last too long. And they cause gross injury upon relationships and churches. And it is a bad look for the body of Christ. Yes. For the church. In the choir, and the usher board, the deacon board, kitchen committee, finance committee, in the whole church, people just don't want to lose. They don't want to take the low ground in order to say, okay, let's figure out a way to make this work. Anybody got any comments, questions?
That's a lot of times, especially within the church.
Yeah.
When it is a conflict, a lot of times what happens is the pride gets in.
Yeah.
Especially when they find out that they are wrong.
Yeah.
So instead of them harming themselves,
Yes.
instead that they are sorry
Yeah.
that I was wrong, they would rather leave the church.
Yeah.
And go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And all they have to do, and that's one of the things that a lot of times Christians forget, that we need to be humble.
Yeah. And don't let pride get in the way.
That's right.
Because your pride is going to be injured if you live in this world. Because my point is, your pride can't be hurt at church, but it can on your job. If they set you down and tell you to shut up and be quiet and go to your machine and don't be late no more, you lay down your pride and do what you told. If they write you up, you got to sign that right up and say, okay, I agree that what you said I did was wrong. Okay, your pride ain't in the way. What about the church? Just say I was wrong, I was mistake, it was my mistake, and I messed up, and move on. People can't do that. Go ahead.
And this is to take a moment and give them to the kids. They take it and they use it.
Yeah.
They jump on each other, they shoot each other.
Yeah.
And half of them don't know why.
That's right. I was we were doing a legal clinic, and man, I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna try to disguise it to what people don't know if they listen to this recording. What I'm talking about, but somebody brought up the issue of children and how they behave at school and their behavior and how reckless and sometimes and how they start stuff at school. And I wanted to say it, but I didn't. I said because they mirror what they see parents do, adults do. If they see you always in conflict with your baby daddy, which is their father, or your husband, which is their father, and they see that conflict where y'all can't never resolve nothing, and it always leads to a fight and it escalates, and they see that, they gonna mirror that, and that's what they gonna do. Kids only do what they are taught to do. They only do what they see. Because that's why the Bible says, train up a child. If you got to train him, that means you got to give him an example of what is right and proper. That's how you train them up. By what they see, by what they hear, by what they're taught. And so if they see what they see, they are taught, they learn. And what they learn was what they practice. You're exactly right. And some of these adult relationships within the context of church, in the context of culture, these children are just mirroring what they see in adults. We can't settle conflict, so how you expect them to settle conflict? We'll fly off the handle and get into a physical altercation. Over what? That's what they see. We badmouth and berate each other. What you think they're gonna do? They just mirroring behavior that they see. And it's so hard for adults to see that. And see, this is what you got to realize. Steve, I don't want to got children. But let me tell you this. When you see your children behaving like you behave, and you see your children in you, don't it be like, you be like, oh my God. Is that the way I acted? That's the way I behave. Because sometimes I can see my sons and my daughters, I can see behavior in them that was in me. That is in me. That's how I act. And so it just trickles down to a generation. And when I realized that early in my life, I had to start reacting different because I wanted to mirror or give an example to that's not how you handle it. So I can't be going after the mother of my children or my ex-wives in a vicious way. I don't want them to think that that's normal. We make stuff normal that should never be normal. It ain't normal for two black women to be fighting, period. It ain't no reason why a lady should ever have to throw hands or get into a physical altercation. Ladies don't fight. I said ladies don't fight, curse, or spit. You know, that's what I consider a real lady. Don't cuss. Don't spit or fight. But these young girls, they do all three. I'm just saying, but I think men have this, and really the role of men in the early church was to de-escalate conflict. That's what Jesus is teaching. You might have to give up something, but you have to come to a solution. You got to come to a solution fast. And it's got to be a genuine solution. Don't let pride get in the way. And then he says this, if somebody compels you to go 1 mile, go with them 2. Jesus is again saying, okay, one is about a physical altercation, other is about a material situation. But this one about compelling, if somebody compels you to go, this is where you're going to have to put energy and time in. Because this is the idea that sometimes these elite people or these wealthy people or rich people, they would be carrying and their load would get heavy and they would see you and they said, come here and carry this for me for a mile because I'm tired. And so they would take that Jewish person and they would give it to them and they would carry it a mile. But they would do it under duress because it says compels you or makes you. That means you really don't have a choice. You are put in this situation inadvertently. It's not a situation you chose to be put in, but you were compelled or you were put in duress. And they put you in this situation, whether you had an obligation to do it or not, or you were obligated to do it or you didn't want to do it, they compelled you to do it. And Jesus says they do it to oppress you or to demean you or to humiliate you or to make you look bad. Jesus says, don't take it 1 mile, take it 2. Show them you can't break me. I'm better than this. Because it's the rest, it's compelling. And Jesus says to demonstrate who you are, as opposed to them trying to show you who they are, you go 2 miles instead of 1 mile. Show them that you can't break me. But if this is what it takes to get this situation dissolved and resolved, this is what it takes for me to not have to argue with you, I'm going 2 miles. Is this what it takes? Is this all it takes? For me to carry this 1 mile? Okay, forget 1 mile, I'm gonna take it 2 miles. If this gonna get you calm down, settle down, and get this situation resolved, I'm gonna be the bigger person, and I'm gonna do more than what you asked me to do. You hear what I'm saying? Yeah. Nobody really thinks like that anymore. You ain't gonna carry 1 mile, nevertheless 2 miles. You done. Somebody tick you off and compel you, put you under duress and make you feel guilty. You ain't going to 1 mile, nevertheless to 2 miles. I don't understand. Sometimes you have to lose. Sometimes you're gonna be on the back end. Sometimes you're gonna have to walk the low road. Man, if I won every time I got mad at somebody, got into a conflict with everybody, man, I would be like batting 100. But no, sometimes you have to give up the right for the wrong, just to get along with people, just for organizations not to tear up. Let me tell you this other thing. It's about your speech. Some things you just shouldn't say, just because you can say them, and it's right and you have a right to say them. Should you say them? If it's gonna create more problems than it is peace, just don't say them. To certain people. Because you know they hot-headed. You know you can't tell them that. See, this is my other thing too. I'm gonna get in this. This ain't in the lesson. This is Pastor Shannon. Don't let people take your energy. You need that energy for something else. Don't let people take your energy. You woke up having a good day. Like Mr. Rogers says, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. And then you let this rascal, this scoundrel, this heifer take your energy. That's too much energy to be given to somebody else over nothing. And at the end of the day, you're going to spend a very little bit of time with them. You're going to see them probably that one time that day. Why would you go to Dollar General store and somebody you just ran into escalate a conflict that takes energy and you only see them that one time that whole day? Don't know the person. So they're going to take all your energy. You came in there happy. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Then you get so mad you forget what you came in there for. Then you get more than what you came in there for. And then you get in the car mad. Now you got road rage. You go to the house. You leave your milk in the car because you're so mad. You run in the house, got to call somebody and tell them what happened. The energy of your whole day is messed up over a person you only saw for 15 seconds. And now they done ruined 23 hours and 85 minutes of your day. That's crazy. It ain't that serious. Your energy ought to be more important to you. And then you only spend an hour out here at church. Why you letting these church folk out here that you don't live with? They ain't paying none of your bills. And they really ain't adding no value to your life other than y'all corporately fellowship together for the purpose of worshiping Jesus Christ. But outside of that, you don't even see these people. Let them get under your skin like that. I don't think you should let people get under your skin. I don't think you should let people run over you. But I don't think you should let them get under your skin. You know the best way to stop conflict? Don't let people start doing what you ain't gonna let them keep doing. If you ain't gonna let them keep doing it, and if you ain't gonna take it over the long term, don't let them start at the short term. Put your foot down early and speak your piece. Just don't start putting up with it. If you ain't gonna keep putting up with it, don't start putting up with it. Just like I told my children about my grandchildren. The only form of discipline gonna work is my form of discipline. If you don't want me to discipline the way I'm gonna discipline, I don't babysit. Simple as that, because they ain't gonna run all over my house, they might do yours. They ain't gonna grab everything off my shifter rope. And they ain't gonna go through my refrigerator. They're gonna eat what I cook. And they're not gonna sit in my house all day, watching video game, running around my house. They're gonna go outside. Okay, they understand what that means. I did that from birth. They don't even want to bring the kids over my house. Ain't bothering me. Grandparenting is optional. Grandparenting ain't mandatory. I see them when I get ready, not when you get ready for me to see them. If I can't whip them and tell them to sit down and shut up and spank them, okay, and I'm telling you what I'm going to do. You know I did it to you. I ain't changed. But in order to keep conflict down, they were talking the other day, all the girls, my daughters was going to go out. You know, they got kids. We're going to go out, hang out Friday night. Daddy, you want to keep the kids? And one of my kids spoke up and said, well, my daughter said, no, you know Daddy whoop them. I don't want to keep mine. That's fine. I don't care. And Daddy ain't going to feed them. I'm not going out spending $65 to feed no 3-year-old, no 12-year-old, and no 2-year-old. I'm going to go get a can of pork and beans, fried piece of chicken, and a slice of bread, and that's it. Talking about take us to McDonald's. I ain't your mom. I ain't your dad. You get what I'm saying? But see, we let people put us in a position that we start putting up with stuff that we know we can't keep putting up with. Some relationships need to be vetted from the beginning. You know the temperament of this person, and you know this person ain't gonna fit into your life. Their energy ain't right. You know what chemistry is? Chemistry is what happens between two people who want an intimate relationship. Most times it's girlfriend and boyfriend, or husband and wife. Sometimes with just people, you don't have any chemistry, you just don't gel. In other words, you can be A church member with some people you could never be friends with. You could eat in this fellowship hall with them, but you could never go out to dinner with them. That's just, it is what it is. Because it's hard for you to sit in here with them and eat and tolerate them. You don't have the temperament. Y'all are different. You don't have any chemistry. Y'all will never be best friends if you didn't come to the same church. So you go ahead and nip that in the bud. They like, you wanna go out, you wanna go hang out and eat? No, I'm good. So we ain't gonna start doing it because we definitely ain't gonna keep up doing it because you get on my nerves. You are hard to deal with. I'm saying that's how you even stop some conflicts. You just don't jail with all people. So Jesus is literally teaching this principle. And then he says in verse 42, I'm closing, give to from him. Okay, I got this. It said, give to him who asks you, and from him who wants to borrow from you, do not take away. Sting, you heard that. Give to him that asks you. Miss Jefferson, Miss Cameron, y'all know you heard that. Give. I'm gonna ask some stuff. Y'all to give me some stuff. But it says, and from him who wants to borrow from you, do not turn away. And I really don't, I kind of don't know where this fit in and how it fit in. I'm really trying to, I just think it's again, with what I said, you know the principle I have, don't let nobody borrow what you can't let them have. If you can't let them have it, don't borrow it. Don't let them borrow it because it's gonna create conflict. Simply say no. You can't borrow it because I need it. You could save a whole lot of relationships if you would stop letting people borrow what you need. If you know that's your light bill money, you don't let nobody borrow your light bill money. Just tell them no. But if it is within your ability and you don't need what you're gonna let somebody borrow, you can let them have it because it's a 80% chance you ain't gonna get it back. Yeah. So why create an issue? It's just like your children and mine. I got a limit on how much I'm letting my children borrow. I don't care how much their light bill is. I don't care how much their condo is. It's $50. That's the limit, that's the max. Then my car payment due. Can I borrow some money? Yeah, you can. Ooh, Daddy gonna let me borrow some money. My car note $300. Okay, here $50. That's my limit, because that's what I can let you have, and I ain't gonna get mad at you if you don't pay it back to me. But I ain't giving you $300, because if I give you $300 and you don't pay me back, that's gonna create conflict. Ain't it true what I'm saying? Yes. So you need to max out a limit of what you can let people have that you don't need. If they pay you back, you hope they do. If they don't, you still ain't gonna do it. And I just think there's some people you shouldn't let borrow money anyway. That's really close family members. Yes. You just, close family members, you just need to not even, because that will create problems beyond problems. And ain't it something when folks get mad at you because you asked them for your money that they borrow? Yeah. Ain't that a hot mess? Get mad because you asking them where my money. You don't need it. Don't tell me what I don't need. Don't tell me how well I'm doing. That ain't got nothing to do. You didn't factor none of that in when you asked me. You doing all right. You got 2 or 3 cars. You never been. What that got to do with anything? So I got a policy now. I do it. I got a limit. My children is $50. And you don't get that but one time a year. One of my daughters used it up the other day. I ain't worried about no school clothes, Christmas. I don't care about none of that. It is not my responsibility. See, we take on too much responsibility that creates conflict with people. If you don't start doing it, you don't have to keep doing it. Me and my kids, we on a group text, and I hate to bring myself into that. We on a group text. They know what my limits are with anything. So we get along really good because they know what the limits are. They don't push the limits. They don't test the limits. So I guess he's teaching give to him who asks, and from him who wants to borrow from you, do not turn him away. I just think that's a principle of, you got to be careful that you don't get into situations where you take on more than what you can handle. That's really what the principle is. You take on more than what you can handle, then it puts you in a bind, and then you have to go and ask somebody for your money. That creates a lot of conflict. Because folk don't ever think it's your money, it's their money in the first place, because you're doing well. You can afford it. Don't that tick you off?
Yes.
You tell me what I don't need, what I can afford. How you know?
And a lot of people borrow from you with no intention of paying you back.
They wasn't that?
I said a lot of people come borrow from you with no intention of paying
They
you
know
back.
a picture back. So that was saying, don't let them have, don't let them borrow what you can't let them have.
Yeah, but they
Put a cap on it.
You think you don't need it. I'm gonna go to the one I think don't need it. They don't pay it, no way.
No way, because she don't need it anyway. They doing real good. That's the problem. And listen, let me tell you, money will put a strain on a relationship quicker than anything.
Yes.
You start messing with my money, and my money, and my money, we're gonna have problems. Because all of us struggling to keep up with as much as we can. And we all need what we got. So I think Jesus is teaching this principle. If somebody asks you to borrow something, if you can, do it. But it doesn't need to be what you need. It's what you can let them have. But don't turn them away, and don't be cruel. I mean, it's a way to tell people no. No, it ain't. Just tell them no. Because you don't have to explain, you don't have to justify. You know, it's better to, when somebody asks you to borrow some money, don't try to explain to them why you ain't gonna let them borrow no money. Just say no. I'm giving you an antidote to lessen conflict with people who ask you for stuff.
But they still gonna get mad at
I don't care.
you. You saying no.
But so what?
Why should
But it's better than devouring a whole lot of useless information about your personal finances or your personal situation, your personal child. That ain't none of their business. Don't try to justify why you saying no, just say no. You don't owe them an explanation of why you can't help them at this particular time. That's gonna create conflict because they're gonna start challenging you on some of that. Oh, Sister Joanne, you know you got a check, you know you got some money, you got a nice car you drive. That's gonna tick you off. You'll have peace every time I see you. You dressed to the nine. That really gonna tick you off. Just say no and that's it. Hang up the phone. Don't try to start explaining to them why you can't help them. Just say no. That's what I do.
Yeah, they get in there, why?
Yeah, why? Why you can't help me? You can help. No, I ain't got to explain all that. You don't owe an explanation, and that's what Jesus is saying. If you do get in all that, it's going to escalate. Just say, no, I can't afford to. And that's it. End of story. You need anything else, huh?
Yeah, I don't never say I don't have it.
No, because that's a lie.
Yeah,
I just said no.
I guess that's
I ain't going to say I ain't got it. No. My son asked me for some money. I said no. He said, okay. He said, what you doing? Okay. See how that was? See how easy that was? I was just checking on it. Okay, you changed the conversation, you changed the dynamic. He said, when I said no, he said, well, how you been doing, Dad? I said, I'm doing good. He said, good. I'm glad you're staying active. Simple as that. But don't prolong the conversation because it's going to get heated and it's going to be unresolvable because you're going to get your emotions and feelings and pride in it. Then what you going to do? Don't try to justify your no. Just say no. It's easier to de-escalate a situation by saying no than giving this detailed explanation. And don't lecture nobody else about their irresponsibility about money. You don't really care. What you asking me for money for? You always broke, you always gambling. Don't get into all that. Personal insults and what you think, why they in a situation. Just say no and move on. You stay out in the casinos and stop gambling and do that. That's not gonna help the situation. That's gonna escalate the situation. Just say no. I'm trying to teach y'all. Say no.
No.
Can I borrow your car to go to the store? No. You know, folk used to want to borrow a cup of sugar. They got the nerve, can I borrow your car to go down the street? No, you can't borrow my car. But y'all get what I'm saying. Just try to avoid conflict and de-escalate things. And sometimes